Hello Real Life Youth, it's Charlotte here, and this week we are in the next part of our series, Hope is Alive. We are looking at Daniel this week, and in this video you will find everything you need for today. There is a game that I think personally you will love. It is, I warn you, the hardest game in the world. I'm not exaggerating. There is the story, there are the signs, the songs, some teaching notes, and a craft for you to do. So I really hope you enjoy the next part of our series, Hope is Alive, learning about Daniel. Have fun. Okay, Real Life Youth, here is the game. And I did warn you at the beginning that this is the hardest game in the world. And what you have to do in the hardest game in the world is you have to count to 20. Now, I know you might be sitting there thinking, Charlotte, I'm in secondary school. Counting to 20 is no longer on the syllabus for my maths lessons. I have been counting to 20 for many, many years now. So if you're trying to tell me that counting to 20 is a really hard game, I think you might be a little bit mistaken. But just you wait and see. See, the way that you have to count to 20 is following these rules. You have to play this game in a group, so you could play it now. You could go and find some other people in your house or your neighbours or your friends, or you could wait until you're in school to play it on Monday if you want to. So you have to play this game in a group. You are not allowed to say more than one number at a time, and you can't make any kind of action, sound, you can't point, you can't nod, you can't wink at someone, you can't make any kind of motion that would tell other players who should say the next number. And you can't just go around the circle saying one number each, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, way too easy. So you have to watch people and you have to decide when you are going to jump in and say a number. And if two people say the next number at the same time, it is game over and you have to start back at number 1. So have a go at that. I tell you, it is harder than it sounds. In our house, we have managed it once and we have been trying it for days. So once we've managed to do it. It is a lot of fun though. We've had a lot of laughter and a lot of silliness as we have been trying to collectively count to 20. Here are some examples of the game being tried with Nick and Zach and Rory and Esme, and then we even threw some grown-ups in there as well to see if they could make it any easier. So have a watch and then have a go and let me know how you get on. Okay, you lot, show them how it's done.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, we'll start again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh.
Start again. 1, 1, 2, 1. You know how to keep on saying 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
I hope you had lots of fun playing that game. I want to know if you managed to get to 20, and if you did, how many times it took you going around the circle or whatever it was you did to get to 20. I bet it was not as easy as you thought it might be. Our song of hope for this week is a song called Every Giant Will Fall by Wren Collective. This is one of Team Senior's favourite songs, and I absolutely love the line in the song that says, over fear, over lies, we are singing the truth, that nothing is impossible with you. And that line reminds me every time I hear it, every time I sing it, that with God, everything is possible. So go and have a listen, remind yourself that everything is possible with God. You can find that song on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Music. It's by Wren Collective and it's called Every Giant Will Fall. Have fun listening to that. We're going to watch Matt show us the signs now, so have a watch, have a practice, see how good you can get at signing Hope is Alive.
Hope is alive.
Thank you, Matt. How are you doing with learning that sign, Real Life Youth? Can you say it super quick yet? Can you say hope is alive? How quickly can you do that sign? Have a practice and let me know. The next thing we're looking at is our memory verse. So we've got a verse that we keep coming back to over and over again in this series. It is so good to learn verses in the Bible to get them deep inside us. And the verse that we've got for this series is Matthew 12:21, which says, "And his name, Jesus, will be the hope of all the world, and his name, Jesus, will be the hope of all the world. I hope you've learnt that. It might be a good idea to write it out on a bit of paper and to carry it around with you, or to stick it on a mirror, stick it inside a cupboard, stick it inside your wardrobe, stick it inside your phone case if you've got one. Anywhere that you're going to see it that's going to help you read it and learn it and get that truth inside you. So that is our memory verse. Please have a listen now as Lorraine reads the story of Daniel from the Jesus Storybook Bible.
Hello everyone, my name is Auntie Lorraine and I'm going to read you a story from the Bible about Daniel and the scary sleepover. Things were not looking good for God's people. They had been captured and taken far away from home, and now they were slaves of the king of Babylon. But God did not leave his people. He was with them and he was looking after them. Daniel loved God and obeyed him. Now God made Daniel to be able to understand lots of difficult things, so it wasn't long before the king of Babylon noticed him. King Darius liked how clever Daniel was, and so he made Daniel his most important helper of all and put him in charge of a lot of other helpers. But the other helpers didn't like this. They wanted the king to like them best, so they spied on Daniel. They tried to get rid of Daniel. They tried to find things wrong with Daniel. Things they could tell the king. Things they could... But there weren't any things. None. They couldn't find anything at all. Except there was just the one thing. Every day, Daniel would go into his room, close the door, and pray. They smiled to themselves. Let's get the king to make a law that no one is allowed to pray to anyone except to the king. Daniel won't obey this law. He will be punished. They were pleased with themselves for being so clever and hurried off to tell the king. The king liked their idea. He didn't know they were tricking him, though. So he made it into law. Everyone must pray only to me. And if you don't, the lions will have you for dinner. Daniel heard about this. He knew it was wrong to pray to anyone except God. He had to do what God said, whatever it cost him, even if it meant he should die. So Daniel went to his room, closed the door, and prayed. That's just what the bad men knew Daniel would do. They skipped straight off to tell their king, "Oh, your most glittering highness, your law says, does it not, that everyone must pray to you alone, sire?" "Yes," said the king. "Oh, magisterial brightness, then correct us if we are wrong, but it would seem that Daniel is praying to God, not to you." The king was very sad. He had been tricked. He didn't want to hurt Daniel, but he couldn't change his law, and so he let the soldiers throw Daniel into the lion's den. "May your God, who loves you so much, rescue you," the king said. The king went back to his palace, but he didn't sleep that night. Not a wink. He tossed and turned until finally, at the first glimmer of dawn, he leapt out of bed and ran straight to the den. "Daniel!" he cried out. "Has your God rescued you?" "Yes," Daniel shouted. "God sent an angel to close the lions' mouths, and there, resting his head on Daniel's lap, was the biggest lion, purring like a kitten. The king brought Daniel out of the den. "Look," he said, "Daniel hasn't even got a scratch." The king made a new law. Daniel's God is the true God, the God who rescues. Pray to him instead. God would keep on rescuing his people, and that time was coming when God would send another brave hero, like Daniel, who would love God and do what God said, whatever it cost him, even if it meant that he should die. And together they would pull off the greatest rescue of the world, the greatest rescue the world has ever known.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. We absolutely loved listening to that and hearing you read to us. You read so beautifully, so thank you. Right, Real Life Youth, we are going to crack on with the teaching points now. Grab a snack if you want to. Get yourselves comfortable as we learn some more about Daniel. So Daniel was living in a strange land called Babylon. He had been taken into exile, and what that meant was that everything around him was completely strange and foreign. It was not like what he had known as he grew up and was familiar to him. So the language, the culture, the clothes, the religion, the food, the ethics, all of that was different to what he had known as he was growing up. So although Daniel followed God, he lived in a land in Babylon that wasn't home, and where not everyone followed God like he did. And what life looked like in God's kingdom was completely different to what everyone around him was doing. And after they were taken into exile, Daniel and his friends quickly realized that living in Babylon meant that there would probably be consequences for them if they continued to trust in God and to obey him. And following Jesus today, Real Life Youth, means that we live in a similar state to Daniel. We're in exile. The kingdom of God and doing and following what God asks of us will probably seem strange to those around us who don't know Jesus, who aren't yet in his kingdom. And people around us might be confused by the choices that we make when we put God first and we choose to trust God and obey God. They might not like that we choose God first. They might make fun of us, they might challenge us, they might just make things a little bit difficult for us. Living in exile like that, like Daniel did, like we do, can be hard, it can be difficult, it can be costly. But as followers of Jesus, we put him first and we put our hope and our trust in him. And Daniel also had the opportunity to influence the world around him. Even though the world around him was completely alien and completely strange, he and his friends quietly and respectfully refused to do things that went against the kingdom of God, that went against what God asked of them. Even though that was what everyone else around them was doing, and even though there were consequences of not doing what they were told to. The decisions that they made to honour the one true God ended up making an incredible impact on the culture around them. It ended up changing the course of that entire kingdom. If you have a chance, why don't you read through all of the book of Daniel? You'll see what happened when brave people of God took a stand for what they knew was right and chose to obey God and to trust him. And so we have the same choice today. We can quietly go along with what our culture and those around us are telling us, and we can do, we can say, we can believe what everyone else does, or we can put our hope in Jesus and trust his plans and his vision for our lives. And what I want to remind you, Real Life Youth, is that God can protect us from anything. We see that in the story of Daniel, where even though he was thrown into a den of hungry lions, God protected him. God can protect us. He is with us in good and bad times, and he is the one who gives us hope. And it says in Daniel 6:22 that God sent his angels to shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt Daniel. How good is God? God is the one who we can put our hope and our trust in, and reading through Daniel reminds us of how good and faithful God is. Okay, Real Life Youth, if you fancy doing a bit of craft today, then here is what I have for you. It is a lion chatterbox. Oh, you see him? So you need to make a chatterbox. If you know how to make a chatterbox already, brilliant, go ahead and make one. If you don't know how to make a chatterbox, you can find loads of videos on YouTube showing you how to make one of these. Make sure you keep it blank, because when you've made it, you need to turn it into a lion. And to be honest, that is a little bit tricky, getting the right bits lining up so that what you have when you close it like this is the lion's face, and then you've got a lion's mouth and a lion's mouth. So let me fold it out so you can see what it looks like when it's flat. So when you've made your chatterbox, you could open it out, and what it looks like is this. Can you see how all of the bits are facing different ways? So that is your challenge. Can you make a chatterbox and turn it into a lion so that all of the pieces are in the right place, so that when you fold it together, it looks like a lion with a lion's mouth? I'm just putting mine back together. There you go. So it looks like that. Have fun, have a go. And what I want you to do in the middle of the chatterbox is to write our Bible verse. Let me show you mine. So the Bible verse is, God sent his angel to shut the lions' mouths so they would not hurt Daniel. And that is from Daniel 6, verse 22. So make your lion chatterbox, open it up, write that Bible verse and have some fun playing with it. We would absolutely love to see your chatterboxes, so please send pictures of them to Melanie or post them on social media. We are using the hashtag real life hope is alive. Have fun. Hopefully you'll be able to get all of the pieces in the right place, so what looks like a lion's face rather than a weird lion mosaic is what you end up with. Have fun. Real Life Youth, I hope you had lots of fun making your chatterbox and remembering how nothing is impossible with God. Don't forget, hope is alive because he is alive. Daniel knew this and so do I. We love you, Real Life Youth. We want to encourage you to keep putting your hope in Jesus. Keep being brave, keep doing what he asks of you, even if that is hard and costly at times. We will see you soon. Bye bye.